The Secretary General of the United Nations defines the rule of law as a principle of governance in which all persons, institutions and entities, public and private, including the state itself, are accountable to laws that are publicly promulgated, equally enforced and independently adjudicated, and which are consistent with international human rights norms and standards. It requires as well measures to ensure adherence to the principles of supremacy of law, equality before the law, accountability to the law, fairness in the application of the law, separation of powers, participation in decision-making, legal certainty, avoidance and arbitrariness, and procedural as well as legal transparency. However, the rule of law has been criticized by several scholars, authors, philosophers and activists as unrealistic, hypocritical or dangerous. My guest, who is very passionate about these subjects, knows at least enough to help create context on the program for this week. It's a delight to welcome you to Law and You here on Independent Television. I am Uyi Agmofwegbe. My guest on the program today is not just a lawyer, but he has a handle on the conversation we're going to have on the program for this week. Andrew Lawani, Esquire, thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you, viewers. Good afternoon.
It's a bit difficult to, I won't want to say define the rule of law, but to keep it in context, especially when you look at the uniqueness of the legal space in this country. I mean, what are the basics you would tell somebody who needs to understand the rule of law?
Well, I will start by saying, for us to know the basics, we must know what rule of law means. And I will start by saying that rule of law is a scenario or a system where both the government and the individuals subject to themselves to obey and be regulated by the law.
Right.
In other words, rule of law is a major component of a good leadership. So without rule of law, you are inviting disaster. So if you are not saying what it entails, first of all, where you say there's a rule of law, there must be independence of the judiciary, which is very important. I go further because when any arm of the government interferes with the goings or with the workings of the judiciary, there's bound to be anarchy, because like we always say, judiciary is the last hope of the common man. And so whatever happens there should be done independently, so that there will be confidence in the judiciary. There must be equality before the law. All men are equal. The law that applies to the governor should apply to the common man on the street. There should not be sacred cows in applying the laws of the land. When there's an infraction by a poor man, so to say, and there's an infraction by a big man, so to say, the same law should apply. Nobody should be treated differently. That equality must be there. Then I go further to say that obedience to the orders of courts is very vital in the rule of law. Because when you disobey orders of court, you are inviting self-help. And self-help will lead to anarchy and disaster. A situation where a court gives an order or a court gives a judgment against the government of the day, the government of the day should obey that order or that judgment, whether good or bad, because government should be by example. If the masses sees that the government of the day obeys the order of court, citizens will naturally follow, because if government can obey the order of court, who am I? That is it. Then there's one thing we should know that is very important. When we say, according to the what is called presumption of innocence. A man is presumed innocent until the contrary is proved. In a rule of law, media trial is not allowed. A man has been alleged to commit an offense. Before the man is brought before the court of law to prove his innocence otherwise, this same man is brought before the media, supposedly to confess to the crime. And in the court of the public opinion, that man has been judged guilty. It is media trial. And the courts have heard several that this is wrong. It's against our fundamental human rights. A man is presumed innocent, no matter the crime, until he's proven by the court of law.
There's an issue there that raises concern, really.
Yes.
More than ever before, there's now an increased or increasing prevalence of some sort of political interference in the judicial system.
Yes.
Does that give you concern, really?
It does. As a lawyer, it does give me concern. And it's what we lawyers have been fighting. I'm going to fight. Under no circumstance should politicians interfere in the workings of the judiciary. There are three arms of government. We have the executive headed by the president. We have the judiciary headed by the chief executive of the federation. We have the legislature headed by the senate president and the House of Rep speaker. These bodies work independently, though there are checks and balances. So it is not a norm. It is not in diadem with rule of law for political interference. When you do that, people's confidence initially is eroded. You hear people say, it's me to go to court, I get do one now. Is the confidence they have lost in the system.
Again, that's reflective of the self-help you talked about.
Yes. Self-help. When a man is big in society, a big man is big in society, he has the power to interfere in what happens in judiciary. Just like what happened before the elections, where the CJN was removed via a convoluted motion party. That ought not to be so. We are not saying the CJN is guilty or not guilty, but the process by which it was removed is against the constitution. And so there should not be interference. There are procedures laid down for the removal of a CJN, which will not follow. We are not going to that one, but I'm going to let you know that interference in the workings of the judiciary is an invitation to anarchy. And when there's a breakdown of the judiciary, the whole country will go into a mess. As powerful as Donald Trump is, he obeys the order of court. There's no interference. When he came on board, he was churning out executive orders. So persons that can enter the US, so that cannot enter. As he was making the orders, people were going to court, and the orders will be pulled down. The best he could do was to appeal. And so there should not be interference from any arm of government on another arm of government, either the executive going against the tenor of the judiciary or vice versa. But because we know that they say he who plays the piper dictates the tune, the interference more comes from the executive, and the receiving end, the people who are receiving end in this situation more or less are judiciary. And so, but it should be looked at. It is not what rule of law says. There should be independence of the three arms of government. When this is not done, anarchy will be the order of the day.
Some scholars, even those within the field of the legal practice, have said,
yes,
argued vehemently in some cases that the rule of law as a concept is not realistic. Do you align your thoughts with that argument?
No, I do not agree with them. Rule of law is realistic because the constitution, which is the governor, has set out what each arm of government should do, their boundaries, their responsibilities. And so if the constitution has set out what they should do individually as an institution, it behoves on them to follow the laid down rules. The problem we have in this country, let me tell you, we have very powerful individuals and very weak institutions. That is what we have in this country. That's why when a court gives an order, a man will come on air and try to tell you the aspect of the order you will obey, the aspect you will not obey. A man will come out to say the government or some person will not obey this order. In the Western world, it cannot happen. Once a court gives an order, until that order is set aside, it is binding on whom it is given against. And so rule of law is realistic, it is practicable, it is the only antidote to avert anarchy in a society. And in a country like Nigeria, it is practicable. All we need is each person to be on his lane, know what the law says you should do. The Senate president should not interfere in what happens in judiciary. The executive should not do so in the legislature. They should. Everyone has a dividing line. And so I do not agree with scholar that says that rule of law is not practicable. It is practicable.
When you look at some instances, I mean, a court judgment has been served, for example, and then here
has been what?
Served.
Yes.
Say judgments
have been served on
delivered. Yes, on a particular party. Judgment has been delivered. Exactly, on a case, for example, depending on which side, for instance. And then you hear lawyers, even on television, telling you, well, we are still studying the judgments. And then just as you alluded to a while ago, they are telling you there are aspects of the judgment they are comfortable with. There are aspects of it they are not comfortable with. But ultimately, the implication is you realize that there are clients, in this case, who feels the judgment essentially doesn't favor him or her, now decides not to obey court orders, as it were. When you look at all of these instances, some professors have also come to hold the position that lawyers are complicit in these issues we are trying to address.
Well, I'm not here to hold brief for anybody, but I, as a person,
right,
there have been instances where judgments given against my clients. I tell them there and then, I will not be a party to disobedience to court orders. You have one option. You can go on appeal. If you fail an appeal, you go to Supreme Court, which is the highest court in the land. It is wrong for lawyers, whether you are a senior advocate or you are a young lawyer, wherever you are, for a judgment to be given against your client, and you sit down, you decide the areas you will obey, the areas you will not obey. The only option left for you, you can file an appeal against that judgment and file a motion for stay of execution. But if you are not filing an appeal, you are not filing a motion for stay of execution, and a judgment of court, a valid judgment of court be served on you, you are bound to obey that judgment. And that is the bane of our problem in this country. Like I said before, strong individuals, weak institutions. A poor man, most times, in quote, at the receiving end. If a poor man, has judgment against him, they will quickly go and file argument, especially when the person who won the case is a big man. It will do everything possible. But when a big man is involved, there's this dilly-dally attitude. It is not a good thing for our society. Judgment of court must be obeyed until set aside by a higher court. There's no need for you to come on air or in your office determine the aspect of the way you will obey. You must obey orders of court until set aside.
I know you talk to people and you hear things a lot. That also means there are chances you've heard people say things like the judiciary has compromised to whatever degree. What are your thoughts? When you hear people talk about things like this, sound this way, what's usually your response to it? Because you can have the conversation about the rule of law, how that it should be entrenched, and not pay attention to people's opinions about how that the judiciary may have created some slacks, which largely also have resulted in leading us up to where we are today.
Well, as a lawyer, I am trained to speculate. I cannot sit here and tell you that somebody have been compromised.
Right.
All these are speculations. What you are not taking part of, or you are not part of, cannot be with your knowledge. I do not agree with anybody that says you usually have been compromised. The law is that he who alleges must prove. If you say somebody have been compromised, you prove it. I have done matters before many judges as a lawyer, and I can tell you with due respect that judges I appear before, they are men and women of integrity. I hear the stories. When a thing happens in Nigeria, it becomes like a beer parlor talk. Everybody talks here and there. This man is corrupt. This man is corrupt. I do not subscribe to that kind of wide allegations. For me, my main practice is based in those states. Judges in those states here are men of integrity. who call a spade a spade. For others who are compromised, I am not aware of. And I cannot say so with certainty because I am not part of those who do the compromise. But all I can tell you, in every 12, there will be a Judas. But until that Judas is proved, is brought out, you cannot for certainty, as if you know what is happening, say, you shall be compromised. It's a speculation, it's a talk that goes on around people because of what they see happen every day in judiciary. You see, cases are not won by sentiments. Cases are won by facts, and facts are sacred. Most times, a judge gives judgment against this person. You say, that judge will be bribed. No, it's not true. You cannot just sit in your room and say somebody will be bribed. Are you aware of the facts of the case? Have you read the case? Were you part of the trial? Have you seen the reasoning of the judge? So there are so many things that come into play. Don't just open up to say somebody will be compromised. It is wrong.
We're going to talk about some things that have been playing out in recent times, especially between the executive and the judiciary. But that is after we take this quick break, and then we're back shortly to wrap up this discussion on the rule of law. Do stay with us. Thank you for staying with us on the program. Let me just push you further on a few things. You mentioned the Constitution just a while back, and we have always heard that the Constitution is the grand norm.
Yes.
But in practice, has that been the case in this country?
Well, it's a sad story. That's not the case in this country. That is where we are.
Okay.
That's why we are not making progress. You know, we make reference to US, make reference to UK. Most I ask myself, can we do what they are doing? In the Western world, once a man is accused of committing an offense, he resigns voluntarily. But in Nigeria, it doesn't work that way.
But if the person decides,
but the Constitution says that a man is presumed innocent
until proven guilty.
Proven guilty.
Right.
If we follow what is written down in the Constitution to the letter, Nigeria will be a better country. But unfortunately, the people who are saddled with the responsibility of seeing that these things are obeyed are the same people who break these laws. They speak from two sides of a mouth. I mean, they speak from here. They are not consistent. The day it favors them, it says the Constitution, we will follow it. The day is not in their favor, they start speaking something else. And that's why we are where we are today. Somebody said, this country we are talking about in this country, if a man is benefiting, he will not complain about corruption. But when he's not benefiting, hey, they are corrupt. Whether you are benefiting or not benefiting, corruption is corruption. Let us fight it headlong. Our leaders, the people at the helm of affairs, who are supposed to do the right thing, are not showing us good example. And that's why I see people, they can do whatever they want to do. Say, after all, that man is involved, he's supposed to show me an example. But we must start from somewhere. We must not wait. I can be the example that people will follow.
There has been this, in recent years, tussle of some sort between the executive and the judiciary. It will appear there's a fight between both arms of government. Which
you say tussle, what do you mean by tussle?
I mean, every now and then you see newspaper headlines reiterating the fact that there is some sort of strife, as it were, between the executive and the judiciary. For example, the issue of the suspended Chief Justice of Nigeria, Walter Onnoghen, has been a big conversation. I mean, across board, regardless of where your loyalty is or your affiliation of any sort, whether partisan or otherwise. I mean, you are a lawyer, for example. You will sit here and tell me you are not concerned about these developments.
I'm concerned.
Exactly. Does that reflect a clear distinction between, I mean, as to how there should be separation of powers between the executive and the judiciary, for example?
He said the issue of Onnoghen is subject to this now.
No, I'm not really saying we should talk about Onnoghen because, of course, I understand the implication of that. I'm saying overall, because before the issue of the Honorable Justice Onnoghen came up, there had been some, for example, there was a case of judges whose homes as we were told, were invaded, for want of better words.
Yes.
Exactly. That also gave many lawyers like yourself concern. These are many developments that have built up over time and have led us to where we are today.
You see, that act in itself, for me, was doing the right thing in the wrong way.
Okay.
If you are accusing a judge of being corrupt, do not carry out a sting operation in his home in the night. There are procedures. You invite the judge for questioning.
Who does that? The NJC?
No. First of all, first of all, let's follow the procedure now. If a judicial officer is accused of anything, it should be referred to the NJC first.
Whatever the offense.
Yes. The NJC looks at the allegations, whether they are weighty or they are tribal or not. After that, the NJC can now say, okay, the accusations against this man are weighty. They will now refer the allegations to the prosecuting power, but not putting the cart before the horse, because the NJC regulates the discipline, the promotion, the appointment of judges. So anything that has to do with judges should be referred back to the first. You cannot just start to invade their houses on the mere allegation of corruption. Do that. Write a formal petition to the NJC, outline the allegations against the particular person, judge. Say this one. They will invite the judge. They will refer to the, say, this is a copy of petition against you. What do you have to say? React. His reaction vis-a-vis the allegation in the petition that was against him will be looked into. If there's merit, it will now be handed over to people who are empowered by the law to prosecute him based on the allegations, whether they are criminal or not.
So essentially the point you're making is due process must be followed.
Must be followed.
No matter whose horse is gold.
Yes.
Let's cap it off.
And that's what we are talking about, the Constitution.
Right. Let's cap it off on this conversation now. Not too long ago, President Muhammadu Buhari talked about how that national interest is important. Of course, it's paramount. Nobody argues that. In fact, the president owes it a duty to the citizens to ensure that national interest across board is protected. But then again, he tried to, by implication, pit national interest against the rule of law. And lawyers like yourself raised their eyebrow at that time.
I was in that conference.
Exactly, it was at an NBA conference.
I was there last year.
What have been your thoughts about that development?
I say it boldly. Rule of law is not contingent, or let me say, national interest does not supersede rule of law.
Okay.
Rule of law supersedes national interest.
So national interest will be subjected to rule of law.
Rule of law is the real deal. National interest should be subjected at all times to the rule of law.
Okay, I think that's a very wonderful way to end this conversation, because it's established already, and national interest comes far first.
Yes.
Before a national rule of law comes before national interest. But then again, it depends on the amount of information you have at your disposal, because lawyers will continue to say that in a society like ours, for example, where we're still struggling to establish the rule of law based on the Constitution, which we are told is the ground norm, that means we are going to continue to deal with the temptation of inviting anarchy. Hopefully, the rule of law will be established by all means, no matter whose horse is God, at least in Nigeria. That's our program for this week. Thank you for watching. I am Uyi Agumofwegwe. We're back here next week, Monday, with a fresh episode. Enjoy the rest of your day.